Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I am Channie, and today we're watching Demon Core: The True Story by Kyle Hill. I don't know what this is about, but let's find out. Honestly, I'm kind of clueless. I just see a metal ball behind me. I don't know what this means.
In 1946, a P-239 plutonium core scheduled for detonation by nuclear bomb was harmlessly melted down and reintegrated into the United States' nuclear stockpile. That was the end of a 14-pound metallic sphere that had killed two scientists not 11 months before.
Whoa.
This is the true story of the Demon Core.
The Demon Core. Adapted from an essay by Kyle Hill.
The spheres of atomic material that had obliterated the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki would have easily fit in your hand, and they were light enough to carry.
Really?
Because of the extreme levels of radiation coming from them, the cores were carried around in secure containers, but curious physicists reported that the cores were disturbingly warm to the touch. Both the Little Boy and Fat Man nuclear bombs use subcritical masses of uranium and plutonium respectively, meaning that no self-sustaining nuclear reaction would be possible with the spheres alone, and the nickel plating that covered them would prevent most of the escaping radiation from harming you. The real harm comes later.
It's not a mini nuke,
the terrible explosions that Little Boy and Fat Man are famous for only happen when a nuclear core goes critical, using directed conventional explosives to artificially induce a critical mass. This meant literally compressing a plutonium or uranium sphere into a much smaller volume with explosions. Now, neutrons emitted from natural radioactivity would be much more likely to go on and impact other atoms before escaping, leading to a chain reaction of exponentially more and more atoms releasing tremendous energy. At the heart of an atomic blast is a radioactive core filled with atoms poised like rat traps. All the bomb itself does is force one of those traps to snap.
Tickling the dragon's tail.
The so-called Demon Core was the third core of fissionable nuclear material made during the World War II era. It was also supposed to be dropped on Japan, but after the Empire's prompt surrender following the obliteration of Nagasaki, the core had no immediate military use. Instead, a physicist working at the Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico after the war decided to use the remaining core to figure out just what it takes to make a core like this go critical. When Otto Robert Frisch first arrived in the United States, he was placed at Los Alamos to study neutron multiplication in uranium and plutonium. These elements naturally radiate neutrons in the process of nuclear decay, and as we said, if there is enough of the radioactive element close enough together, these neutrons...
Let me put my glasses on. We gotta lock in. This is science. Where are my glasses at? Alright, we'll be studious.
Can go on to cause the rat trap style reaction as neutrons slam more neutrons free from other atoms. However, there is another way to force criticality other than just having a giant sphere of plutonium, which would be hard to make. It turns out that if you use a very thick material to reflect neutrons coming out of the material back upon itself, like a mirror would, a self-sustaining reaction can occur with substantially less plutonium or uranium. Even though an explosion might not happen after criticality is reached in all cases, a deadly blast of radiation certainly could. And that's exactly what happened. By 1944, Frisch was leading the Critical Assembly Group at Los Alamos and started a dangerous series of near-criticality testing. The physicists in the group wanted to use neutron-reflective materials around spheres of plutonium and uranium to see just how close they could get to going critical, without explosives and without going over the edge. Commenting on the inherent risk of experiments of this kind, legendary physicist Richard Feynman reportedly said that the experiments were like, quote, tickling the tail of a sleeping dragon, end quote. But even with the very real possibility of being roasted alive by the radioactive fire of a failed criticality test, the tickling the dragon's tail experiments continued. Within 2 years, neutron reflection experiments on the Demon Core would claim the lives of two scientists, Harry K. Daghlian Jr. and Louis Slotin, in almost the exact same way.
The half-life of Harry...
On August 21st, 1945, Harry K. Daghlian Jr. was conducting a criticality experiment with the Demon Core. He was placing tungsten carbide bricks around the mass of plutonium to see how many bricks and in what orientation it would take to reflect enough neutrons to cause the core to go critical. That afternoon...
Okay, maybe stupid question because I've already been watching for 4 minutes, but like going critical, does that mean like stabilizing it or like letting it set off? Because it wouldn't make sense for it to set off if it's critical, right? Because then that would mean they would die. So what exactly is making it critical? Making it stable? If it goes critical, it explodes. But like, why are they trying to make it go critical if they're testing on it? They're gonna die. And R2 already died. Meltdown? Nah, I think they're trying to figure out how to go boom with less. So they're trying to learn how to make it go off in the less costly way. They want to find what limit they need to go to activate it. Oh, okay. So they want to find the limits for activation, but also in the least costly / the most efficient way. Reflecting enough neutrons so the uranium becomes a critical mass. They're poking the bear, so to say. Critically means that on average the core is releasing enough neutrons to create a self-sustaining nuclear reaction, like what you would see in a nuclear reactor. So they want it to be like activated on its own without external forces.
Using a Geiger counter-like device to measure the radiation coming off of the plutonium, he got close enough to criticality that he decided to end the experiment.
He wants the core to go into self-sustaining reaction without causing it to create extra neutrons, like in a nuclear bomb.
Now, this result should have been worth just a few graphite streaks in a notebook and maybe a beer at the local bar with the other physicists, but Daghlian was curious. Later that night, he returned, alone, to his assembly for another test. Like the tests before, Daghlian created an orientation of bricks that his measuring device told him was nearly critical. As he was placing one last brick, the measuring device indicated that the core would go critical if he continued on the assembly. The dragon would wake up. So cautiously, he began removing the final brick, and then he dropped it.
Oh
the
no.
moment the brick hit the assembly, the demon core instantly went supercritical. And according to Daghlian, there was a blast of blue light and a wave of heat. Daghlian reacted quickly, though, and used his right hand to knock the dropped brick all the way to the floor. In those fractions of a second, Harry had received a fatal dose of radiation. In fact, he had endured what was likely the highest acute dose of radiation of any human in history. 25 days later, Daghlian fell into a coma and died from organ failure owing to severe radiation poisoning. This photo, taken 9 days after the accident by medical staff, is of the hand that Harry had used to stop the demon core.
Oh my god.
He was 24.
Oh my god.
Harry wasn't completely alone and experimenting in the lab that night. A security guard, Private Robert J. Hemmerly, was also sitting at his desk next to Daghlian reading his newspaper. Hemmerly died 33 years after Daghlian Jr. from what is now considered to be radiation-caused leukemia. He was 29 and the father of 2 at the time of exposure. God. Harry K. Daghlian Jr. was the first official fatality.
The guard, he died way later, but still caused by the radiation he received 33 years ago, right? Did I understand the timing correctly? I remember I was watching an episode of House, and it was like about radiation in that episode. And it was like some sort of like necklace that this kid was wearing that his dad gave him as a present that he handcrafted. And turns out the metal used in it was radioactive. So the kid was wearing it a lot, and then it ended up making him sick. So yeah. That's crazy, bro. And then like they were like testing, and then they're like, where's his clothes? And then they went to check his clothes, and it was like so radioactive down in the basement of the hospital. And they were like, what the hell, bro? Yeah, crazy, bro. Crazy.
From a criticality accident and the first American casualty of the atomic age. He had arranged to have his body donated to science after his inevitable end, so that scientists could study the effects of radiation exposure on the human body.
Oh my god, and then
During
he
the
donated
25
his body.
days after his fatal mistake, Daghlian's colleague, Lewis Slaughton, spent many hours at his bedside, comforting the 24-year-old as radiation poisoning slowly claimed him. Exactly 7 months later, in the same hospital, Louis Slotin would suffer the exact same fate.
Wait, so that this person, Lois, he was not in the room during the experiment, right? He was just, is it because he was hanging out and studying the body weight? I'm kind of confused now. 1 second, let me go back.
Exposure on the human body. During the 25 days after his fatal mistake, Daghlian's colleague Louis Slotin spent many hours at his bedside, comforting the 24-year-old as radiation poisoning slowly claimed him. Exactly 7 months later, in the same hospital, Louis Slotin would suffer the exact same fate.
Nuclear Cowboy. The further you are away, the less the exposure to whatever came out the core. But in this instant, it was a lethal dose. Yeah. No matter where you were in the room. He was not in the room, but he made a very similar mistake. Ah, I see. Okay.
By 1946, physicist Louis Slotin had taken over the critical assembly group from Frisch.
Okay, so now he carried over the
experiments were moved from the Omega site at Los Alamos to the Palajito laboratory. The dangerous nature of the experiments did not change. In addition to Feynman's continued warnings, physicist Enrico Fermi said that, quote, "Keep doing that experiment that way, and you'll be dead within a year."
Yo.
But Louis Slotin wasn't worried.
Foreshadowing?
And the experiments continued.
Man.
On May 21st, 1946, Slotin was conducting another criticality experiment with the Demon Core. This time, though, instead of using tungsten bricks, Slotin was testing the critical point of the core by placing it inside 2 half spheres made of beryllium and lowering those halves until there was just a sliver of space before the sphere was complete. If the core was completely enclosed, the reflection of neutrons would be total, and the dragon would wake again. The local expert among experts...
Low-key, I would not trust myself to hold, like, the top of the sphere. Like, what if it just slips? Especially holding it with the thumb. You guys know, my thumb is so weak. Like, it's fully inflamed. It's just... It's cooked. It's really cooked. Like, I wouldn't be able to hold this. It would just fall. And then I'd be cooked. It'd be over for me.
Dragon would wake again. The local expert among experts, Slotin was reportedly brash in his experimental protocols. In his signature pair of blue jeans and cowboy boots,
like not thorough, like he was just like thugging it out, like he was being too arrogant.
Slotin would perform the criticality tests without the fail-safe spacers that would sit on the half spheres and keep it from ever completely closing. Instead, he would put his bare hand on the top half sphere and attempt to lower it using only the blade of a flathead screwdriver. That way he could get much closer to criticality. And Slotin had successfully completed this experiment dozens.
Brash means self-assertive, particularly if you're rude about it. I think he was using a screwdriver to hold the lid. Oh my god, look at him. I mean, I guess this is not him, but I guess this is how he was doing it. This is crazy. What the hell?
The afternoon of the accident, Louis Slotin was conducting the same screwdriver experiment as 7 other colleagues recorded and watched. It was just like the test before, but for whatever reason, this time, the screwdriver slipped.
Oh.
The moment the spheres touched, the demon core went prompt critical. The reflected neutrons coming from the plutonium inside the sphere instantly initiated supercriticality. Like the Daghlian accident, there was a flash of blue light and a wave of the dragon's heat before Slotin could flip the top half sphere off of the assembly. Naturally, the 7 other scientists in the room ran out as fast as they could as the accident occurred, but Slotin shouted them all to get back and tossed them a stick of chalk. He told them each to mark down precisely where they were standing.
Oh, I mean, yeah, they're cooked anyways. They're gonna die anyways, so might as well just get as much info of location, like distance for future studies. But like, damn, like that's so, like you literally just caused the death of 7 more, and you're like, thug it out, bro. Come mark where you were standing, bro. I don't remember. I don't remember. I got scared. I almost shat my pants. I don't fucking know where I was standing. That is great. That's actually insane.
By establishing their positions relative to the demon core, Slotin would be able to calculate just how much radiation each person had just absorbed, and how much their lives had just been shortened.
Insane.
According to physicist Raymer Schreiber, who was present in the room with Slotin that day, Slotin's first words immediately after the incident were, quote, "Well, that does it." Louis Slotin died of severe radiation poisoning 9 days later at the age of 35.
Damn.
He died in the same hospital as Harry Daghlian Jr. on another Tuesday the 21st as a result of the same accident with the same hunk of radioactive material. They even were cared for by the same nurse. The demonstration that day was supposed to be the final demonstration with the core before it was
Everything
used
for
in a test
science.
detonation, and it was. In those few moments, Louis Slotin had been exposed to over 1,000 rads of radiation from the neutrons and gamma rays blasting out of the demon core. This is possibly the highest dose of radiation.
Fat Man and Little Boy, 1989. So this is the movie inspired by them? Or what?
Any human has
Have you guys
ever
seen
taken.
this? YouTube, let me know down in the comments too if you've seen this.
As a comparison, 1,000 meters from ground zero in Hiroshima, the neutron radiation was measured as less than half of what Slotin had absorbed in those fractions of a second. Since 1945, over 60 criticality accidents have been recorded, leading to at least 21 deaths in facilities and labs all around the world. The flash of blue light that so often accompanies these incidents is an indication of the invisible radiation being released. As high-energy particles crash through the air, like these particles exiting a cyclotron, they excite the air molecules. The only way for these molecules to return to a lower energy state is to release some radiation of their own, photons of light. But while gases can absorb and re-emit the energy imparted to it by nuclear material, human bodies cannot. Instead, particles and gamma rays flying out of the nuclear cores rip electrons from the molecules that make you up and smash your cellular machinery beyond repair. When enough molecular damage is done, radiation sickness can manifest itself as everything from vomiting and diarrhea to blisters, inflammation, impaired cognition, widespread organ failure, confusion, nausea, high fever, dizziness.
Yo, what?
5
What's
weeks
with this
later,
effect?
on July 1st, 1946,
This movie was Oppenheimer before Oppenheimer. I need to still see Oppenheimer. Okay, I'm gonna watch both. I'm gonna watch this one and Oppenheimer. Trust, and I'll get back to y'all with my opinions on both. High energy particles go through human bodies like it's nothing.
a different nuclear core was destroyed in a 23 kiloton air-deployed nuclear weapon over Bikini Atoll. It was supposed to be the end of the Demon Core. Instead, the Demon Core was melted down and redistributed throughout the rest of the United States stockpile, effectively getting a brand new half-life. Until next time.
Until next time. Good video, bro. This is good. Bikini Atoll. Where is that?
Yeah. Story time with Kyle's a little serious, huh? Thank you so much
that was
to the
good,
very
Kyle.
noted staff at the facility for the direct and substantial support in the creation of this here video. Today, especially, I want to recognize research assistant Roy Don Houghton, who's definitely not a Pokemon, and visiting scholar Max Concurrent. Oh, Maximum at the same time is what your parents should have named you. If you want to join the facility, if you want to get a lab coat, get on the staff, you want to talk to me in our Discord, give me
in the
episode
Pacific
ideas,
Ocean,
get episodes early, join our
virtually
Magic the
in the
Gathering
middle of
League,
nowhere.
D&D nights, all this great nerdy stuff. You can join at patreon.com/Kyle Hill right now. And if you support the facility just enough, you get your name on RA here each and every week. And as you can see, there's literally hundreds and hundreds of you, so I don't know how I'm going to pass the yeah. Yeah, it's not fun, these accidents and their stories. As I've been saying for weeks, you know my thoughts on nuclear weapons. They're terrible, terribly destructive. I don't think we should ever use them. I don't think we should even have them. If you want to know more of my thoughts, you can go to the end of history video back on the channel. And look, I could lighten the mood here with some, hey, it's fun Kyle Science Guy factoid, but I'm not going to, okay? I could tell you that according to a recent study, platypuses are fluorescent, but I want you to say that. I want you to sit here and think about it. I wouldn't say anything ridiculous like that about platypubes.
What? What? Chernobyl is still a little radioactive, but animals there are just fine.
Thanks for watching.
You're welcome. It was a good video. Thank you. Alrighty, so that was the Demon Core, the true story told by Kyle Hill. This was actually very informative. I did not know about this at all, actually. Like, I've never heard of this. So this was a very good recommendation. Thank you so much, Lone Wolf. I will be definitely checking out the movie inspired by this event. I think it was called Fat Man, Little Boy, and Oppenheimer for sure. because this was, I don't know, I really like stories like this, like history but story, you know. I think it helps me remember things easier when it's told like this. So I'll be definitely remembering this. It was, his way of narration was also very good, so I like it. Got me thinking about platypuses. I don't know what was going on at the end with platypus, but you know, slay. Slay. But yeah, I really enjoyed this video. It was very informative, like I said. And YouTube, if you enjoyed the video as well, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!